only is he not backing up from Canelo's power, but he may be doing more
the stretch.
Out of Omaha, Nebraska, USA, and no.
This is one of those fights where you remember exactly where you were when it happened, because no matter who you were backing, no matter which side of the argument you were on, deep down you knew we were watching something rare. Two pound-for-pound greats, two different styles, two different countries, two different careers, and one massive question hanging over the sport. Was Terence "Bud" Crawford really that good? Or was Canelo Alvarez simply too big, too strong, too experienced at this weight? That's what made this fight feel different. This wasn't hype for hype's sake. This wasn't a manufactured rivalry. This was a genuine test of greatness. And from the moment these two touched gloves, you could feel it. No trash talk, no theatrics, just cold focus, just business. Canelo Alvarez, the pride of Mexico, walking in as the undisputed super middleweight champion. A man who had been here before, who had lived under these lights, who had carried this kind of pressure for years. A fighter known for his patience, his body work, his ability to slowly break opponents down round by round. And across from him stood Terence Crawford, the pride of Omaha, Nebraska, the technician, the switch hitter, the fighter people always described with one word: different. A man moving up in weight yet again, taking on a challenge most fighters wouldn't even consider, especially at this stage of his career. Crawford was pushing 38. Canelo was 35, both with miles on the clock, both with nothing left to prove. And yet everything to prove. And as the bell rang for round one, you could immediately tell this wasn't going to be reckless. This was going to be smart, calculated, tactical. Canelo started exactly how you'd expect. Slow steps forward, heavy guard, taking ground inch by inch, not throwing much, but letting Crawford know that space was going to disappear. Crawford, meanwhile, stayed light on his feet, circling, jabbing, touching, and moving, making Canelo reset again and again. This early phase was about information: who was faster, who could control distance, who could impose their rhythm without overcommitting. And what stood out immediately was Crawford's calm. No panic, no rush. He wasn't intimidated by the size difference. He wasn't backing up because he was scared. He was backing up because he wanted Canelo reaching. Canelo's punches early had force behind them, but a lot of them were blocked. Crawford's defense was tight, gloves high, head moving just enough. And when Crawford did let his hands go, it was quick. A triple jab here, a sneaky shot around the guard there. Nothing flashy, but everything purposeful. You could hear the commentary already asking the question everyone was thinking: is Crawford big enough? Can he take Canelo's power for 12 rounds? Because this wasn't just about skill. This was about durability. This was about whether technique could survive brute strength. As the round closed, neither man had taken control, but Crawford had made one thing clear: he wasn't here to survive. He was here to compete. Round two picked up right where things left off, but now the exchanges started getting sharper. Crawford began stepping in behind that jab more confidently, not just touching, but landing clean. One shot clipped Canelo on the side of the head. Another found its way through the guard, subtle but effective. Canelo responded the way Canelo always does, by going to the body. A heavy left hook downstairs, a digging shot to the ribs. The kind of punches that don't always look dramatic in the moment, but pay dividends later. And every time Canelo landed to the body, you could see Crawford acknowledge it. Not panic, not frustration, just awareness. What impressed me here was Crawford's discipline. He didn't try to prove a point. He didn't stand there trading just to show toughness. He picked his spots. He boxed when it made sense, and he disengaged when it didn't. By the end of the second round, you could already feel that this fight was going to be close, razor thin, the kind of fight where every clean shot mattered. Round three is where things started getting interesting. Canelo's pressure increased. He started cutting the ring better, not chasing Crawford, but anticipating where he'd move. And for the first time, we saw Canelo land some of his most meaningful shots. A solid right hand, a sharp counter upstairs, moments where Crawford had to reset quickly. But here's the thing. Every time Canelo landed something big, Crawford answered back. A clean left hook, a sharp counter as Canelo stepped in, a right hand that snapped Canelo's head back just enough to make him pause. This wasn't dominance from either man, this was negotiation. Who could take what, and who could keep imposing their game without crossing the line into recklessness. As the rounds went on, you could see Crawford growing more comfortable. His movement looked smoother, his timing sharper. He was starting to see Canelo's patterns. And once a fighter like Crawford starts reading you, that's dangerous. Round 4 continued that trend. Crawford began landing more frequently upstairs. Not power shots, but clean shots. The kind that score, the kind judges remember. Canelo continued to work the body, continued to stalk, but he wasn't overwhelming Crawford the way many expected. Then came round 5, and this was a big one. This was the round where both men tested each other's limits. Crawford stood his ground more. He exchanged. He didn't just move laterally, he pivoted and fired back. A hard shot to the chest, a sharp uppercut inside, the kind of punches that make even a fighter like Canelo take notice. And Canelo responded. Heavy shots, aggressive bursts, trying to assert himself physically, trying to remind Crawford that this was super middleweight, not welterweight. But Crawford took it. He absorbed the shots, he didn't fold, he didn't back away in panic, and that alone said a lot. At this point, the narrative started to shift. This wasn't about whether Crawford could survive. This was about whether Canelo could separate himself. Rounds 6 and 7 were all about adjustments. Canelo tried to up the pace, Crawford tried to slow it down. Canelo wanted exchanges, Crawford wanted counters, and in those moments Crawford's fight IQ really shined. He knew when to tie up, he knew when to pivot off the ropes, he knew when to sneak in an uppercut on the inside. There was a moment where Canelo landed a heavy shot that would have discouraged most fighters, and Crawford just looked at him, reset, and fired back. That's not bravado, that's confidence. By round 8, you could feel the tension in the arena. This wasn't a blowout, this wasn't a showcase, this was a chess match being played at full speed with real consequences. Canelo was still dangerous. Every punch he threw carried intent. Every combination had bad intentions behind it. But Crawford's defense was responsible. He wasn't getting caught clean often. He wasn't giving Canelo the openings he needed to really unload. Round 9 saw a brief pause due to an accidental headbutt, and even in that moment, the respect between these two champions was clear. No theatrics, no complaints, just professionalism. When they resumed, Crawford came out sharp, crisp shots, clean counters. He wasn't trying to steal rounds late. He was actively winning moments. Round 10 felt like a crossroads. This was where champions usually pull away, and while Canelo had moments, Crawford's responses were sharper. Every time Canelo tried to press, Crawford found an answer. Uppercuts inside, jabs on the way out, angles that kept Canelo from planting his feet fully. By round 11, urgency set in. Canelo knew he needed something big. His corner urged him to pour it on, to take risks, to force exchanges, and Canelo did. He landed some good shots late in the round. But once again, Crawford answered, not with wild swings, but with precision, with timing, with control. Then came the 12th. This was it. No more adjustments, no more reading, just execution. Crawford didn't coast. That was the most impressive part. He stayed active. He stayed composed. He kept his hands moving. He didn't give Canelo the miracle moment. Canelo threw everything he had left. He searched for that one shot, that signature left hook, that right hand that could change everything. But Crawford didn't let it happen. When the final bell rang, there was no knockout, no dramatic collapse, just two exhausted champions standing in the center of the ring, knowing they had been part of something special. And when the decision was read, it became official. Terence "Bud" Crawford defeated Canelo Alvarez by unanimous decision. Undisputed. Again, a smaller man, an older man, a technician who moved up and beat a bigger, stronger champion on skill, composure, and intelligence. This wasn't about hype. This wasn't about politics. This was about boxing at its highest level. For Crawford, this performance cemented his legacy. Multiple weight classes, multiple eras, multiple styles conquered. He didn't just win, he earned respect. For Canelo, this loss didn't erase anything. He fought with heart. He fought with class. He pushed the pace, but on this night, he was outmaneuvered. And for fans, this was one of those fights that reminds you why combat sports matter, why we tune in, why we argue, why we care. Because sometimes greatness meets greatness, and the result isn't chaos, it's art. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you drop a like, subscribe to AU Beyond MMA, and let me know in the comments where this fight ranks among the greatest performances you've ever seen. Because fights like this don't come around often, and when they do, you don't forget them.